Welcome to American Indian and Alaska Native Living, a program designed to educate and inspire listeners throughout Indian country. American Indian and Alaska Native Living is hosted by Dr. David DeRose, a board-certified specialist in both internal medicine and preventive medicine. Dr. DeRose has a wide range of experience with Native health issues, and he is here today to help you learn more about your health. Here is Dr. DeRose.
Welcome to American Indian and Alaska Native Living. I'm Dr. David DeRose. Today we've got a great show lined up for you with one of my favorite guests. It's Dr. Greg Steinke. He's the medical director of Life Med Clinic in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area. Greg, it's great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much for having me, David. I'm really excited to talk with you.
Greg, you and I have done a number of shows together. Of course, many people know you as one of my co-authors for the book, 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. There's still a lot of interest in that book. Actually, I was just looking the other day, and still in the top 10 best-selling blood pressure titles on Amazon. I mean, that varies from hour to hour, but so still getting a lot of attention. And I know you've gotten a lot of attention, not just speaking about blood pressure and natural remedies, but more natural lifestyle approaches to disease. Update us a bit, because it's been a while since you've been on the show. Tell us, for those who don't know you, about your background and what you're doing currently.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a real journey over the last few years. Some of the most exciting medicine that I've practiced in my lifetime. You know, just to give you a little background, David, when I was in college, I was sort of one of these aimless, college students. Perhaps you've met a few of those. And, I ran into this program that was on heart health, and I started volunteering in it. And there was a series of things that had occurred that had to do with my dad's health and so on that got me pretty interested in health. And so when I joined that class, I realized how much power there was in lifestyle change, how much power there was in diet, in exercise, stress control, sleep, etc., in improving a lot of the chronic diseases that we deal with in America. And it got me really, really excited, and it helped me really focus in on what I felt my calling was in life, and ended up through medical school, got a degree in nutrition, and did a residency in family medicine and preventive medicine, and really focused on lifestyle medicine. This is an up-and-coming medical specialty among physicians. American College of Lifestyle Medicine now has thousands and thousands of members. It's been very, very popular. A lot of physicians are very interested in this. And I was one of the early members to join that organization, and very much have had that as a central part of my practice for a long time. I started out in Oregon, ended up with some family crisis that occurred out here in Tennessee with my wife's father. And we ended up here in 2018. And, it's awesome when your wife tells you, we went through a really difficult experience with him. And it's awesome when your wife tells you, hey, I'm so appreciative that you came out to the South and really helped me with my dad. Honey, you can do whatever you want. If you want to start something, you want to go anywhere, I'll go wherever you want. How many husbands get that from their wife? And so anyways, I started dreaming. I started thinking and praying and dreaming about what I could start. I'd been in family medicine for a long time. I'd worked in the hospitals a lot. And I saw a lot of the weaknesses in our healthcare system. We really, as healthcare providers, struggle to form relationships with our patients that are very well anymore. We used to do a better job at that. Now it's a real struggle. Patients are struggling for access. They really struggle to get access to the clinician and to the healthcare staff many times. Other issues are that the insurance, health insurance, story is changing in America. We now have over 50% of our of people have high deductible healthcare insurance. So, the healthcare insurance is very much becoming more and more sort of almost like catastrophic. People have to pay for routine medical care. And so seeing those things, having this love for lifestyle medicine and a desire to really have good relationships with my patients, I just knew that we had to figure out a different model, a better model, and that's what Life Med Clinic's all about.
Well, that's exciting. So we're excited to hear from someone who's really a pioneer, and I know you are because I've been hearing about people traveling to come see the Life Med Clinic. You're doing a different model of practice. Now, we've got many listeners who have got great access to care. They may be in a tribal health system. It may be actually run by their tribe, and they're very happy with what they have. Maybe they're on a reservation. Maybe they're in close proximity to a tribal health center, and they may be listening to this dialogue and they can't relate. But we have so many Native Americans and non-Native listeners who are struggling with some of these very things that you're attempting to tackle there in the Life Med Clinic. We have many Native Americans who are not members of federally recognized tribes, and as a result, they're basically in the common health care marketplace like everyone else. So they don't have health services through a tribal enrollment. So we want to hear what you're doing. And I think the model that you're looking at, even though the model may not translate to, say, a tribal health system, some of your approaches, I think, definitely will resonate with people throughout Indian country and beyond. So first, tell us a little bit. Let me just make it practical, Greg. So let's say I decide I'm going to move to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I've heard wonderful things about that area. I do have some firsthand knowledge of that part of the country. I've got two of our children that have thought that was such a great place to live that they're actually down not that far from where you are. I know you're aware of that. And let's say my wife and I said, hey, we're going to move down there as well. And we're looking to find a new healthcare provider. Now, you've already got I've already got an in, I feel like, with you, but hopefully it goes both ways. Anyway, so we want to check out your practice, and we call up and we get someone on the phone. We say, we heard this is a different kind of practice. I mean, what's different about it? What's the kind of elevator pitch or the short summary of what you guys are doing differently there?
David, I think that's a great idea for you and your wife to come on down here. That would, yeah, our core is spending time with patients, and so the model really has to do with something called direct primary care, and that is a catchphrase that people maybe are not familiar with, but that just means that instead of paying per visit, so you show up at the doctor and then you pay when you show up. That's the usual model. You don't pay per visit. In fact, you could have numerous visits or very few visits, and you pay the same monthly fee. And what that has allowed for us to do is to, rather than structuring our whole life around how many visits we have and the tendency with decreasing reimbursement rates from the health insurance companies, et cetera, is for the doctor to go faster and faster and faster and faster. To try to keep up with expenses. You got a whole clinic to pay for, you got staff, et cetera. Instead of that, we have a situation where we can focus on the people who have the most need. We can take time. Our typical appointment times are 45 minutes to an hour for a return patient. And so our one-on-one visits are much more thorough. We get to know our patients much better. We understand their life much better. And they get to know us. And that rapport and that, kind of connection, I think, is absolutely vital to be able to, to share with the patient the healing they need, to help them through the struggles and the journey of health. I mean, we know health is probably one of the top things that people are concerned about at this time in our American, history. And we know internet searches, health is a top search, over and over and over. And so what we wanted to do is to be able to help people, especially with lifestyle change, especially with improving your diet and your exercise. That takes time. It takes education. It takes helping you to motivate you. It takes understanding where you're at. Where are you really? What do these diseases mean? What do I really have going on? These are all, educational things that we're supposed to be doing. I mean, the name doctor, actually, if you look it up in from the original meaning, has to do with teacher. It really means very much a teacher kind of meaning. So, we're all about that. We want to have longer visits. We have classes that we're doing. And our mission, if you look at our mission, we have a real theme on sharing love, sharing the Creator's love. We want to restore the whole person. We want to focus on what we call lifestyle medical ministry, and it be a loving approach, a caring approach. And I think this is also a wonderful approach to minimize costs. There's a great story out of Omaha, Nebraska, David. This large plumbing company was looking to reduce costs. Companies all over the place want to control the healthcare dollars. They want to offer health insurance as a perk, but it
Hmm.
ends up being one of their largest expenses. And so they started exploring a direct primary care clinic there in Nebraska. And through the course of that exploration, about half of their patients signed up with direct primary care, half of them stayed with the old model. And for a couple years, they monitored the expenses. And what they found was that the patients in the direct primary care model spent less money.
Hmm.
They had less urgent care visits, less ER visits, less specialist use because their access was better. They were able to establish better rapport with their doctor. And one of the
Hmm.
awesome things that you are released from when you are not connected to getting paid based on the visit is you can use the modern technology that we have now. I mean, doctors are starting to get into it a little bit, but a lot of doctors don't want to text. Patients love texting.
Hmm.
And so if they have a request or they have a question or whatever, they just send it to us. And guess what we do? We just text them back, or email or, video chat starting to become more and more common. But rather than worrying about, am I going to get paid for this? A lot of doctors don't want to do that because, they'd rather see the patient in person just to do a very routine matter that could have easily been done with one, communication with our modern technology. We can use all that and save patients lots of time. They don't have to take a half a day off of work just to ask one question of the doctor that may be worrying them. So there's a lot of, I think, perks for what people want. They want a relationship with the doctor. They want that convenience, and it's very affordable. I mean, our monthly fees are less than $100 a month. We are very, in fact, part of our mission is we have a special emphasis on the underinsured, on the underserved, and low income folks, and so we have almost 40% of our clinic on either sliding scale or free.
Oh wow. So what I hear you saying is the government may not necessarily reimburse for all the things you're doing. In other words, you may not even be billing insurance. Is that right?
We're not billing insurance at all, David. We don't we don't do that at all.
Okay. So for someone who had no money at all and you have this sliding scale and they say, I can't afford anything, there's some people that are actually coming and I mean, I know you probably don't want to advertise this too broadly, but
No, we're happy to. I mean, this is what love does, right? If acts of love are acts of healing. I'm thoroughly convinced by that. And when you are engaging in a loving process, people get healed. And so when they know that you're stepping into their life and you're not concerned about just emptying their wallet, you're concerned about actually caring for them and helping them, that produces a lot more healing than other things. So yeah, absolutely. If someone has a low income, we accommodate that, and we've been blessed. We went through a fundraising effort last fall, and man, people were just more than happy to help us out. And we had a real uh, kind of significant boost in our patient assistance fund. And it's just been a really huge and very fun experience to have this setting in a way where I, as the physician, my medical staff, we have active involvement in helping people when they're worried about money, when they're worried, when they're stressing about that. That's one of the biggest stresses. I mean, if you ask this question, what's the number one cause of bankruptcy in America? Well, guess what? It's healthcare.
whoa.
So, it's a major, major piece of what we're struggling with here. And I think this model is something worth looking at from a clinician standpoint. If you want to do more to care for your patients, to love your patients, to make a difference in their life, this model's awesome for that. And patients absolutely love it. They love the responsiveness that we're able to have. They love how much we're able to do via technology, et cetera, and that the visits are long and they get plenty of time.
Well, before we have to step away just briefly, Greg, there's folks that have engaged with this conversation. They're excited. Maybe they're in Atlanta or Nashville, Knoxville. I mean, anywhere within a few hours drive of you, and they're saying, "Hey, this may be worth it to see Greg and his team at the LifeMed clinics." Dr. Steinke, how does someone get a hold of your team?
Just give us a call, 423-250-5094 would be the easiest way. Also, you can reach us online at lifemedclinic.org, and you're welcome to take a look at our website and check us out that way.
We do have to step away briefly. I'm Dr. David DeRose. My guest, Dr. Greg Steinke. We're going to talk about practical things that Greg's doing, things that can make a difference in your life, whether you go to the LifeMed clinic or not. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
Today's broadcast has been pre-recorded. However, if you have questions about today's show or would like further information, please reach out to us on the web at aianl.org. That stands for American Indian Alaska Native Living. Again, aianl.org. Or you can call us at 1-800-775-HOPE. That's 1-800-775-4673. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to Dr. David DeRose on American Indian and Alaska Native Living. Your comments and questions are welcome. Call now at 1-800-775-HOPE. That's 1-800-775-4673. Here again is Dr. DeRose.
Welcome back to American Indian and Alaska Native Living. I'm Dr. David DeRose. My guest, Dr. Greg Steinke. Greg is a board-certified specialist in both family practice and preventive medicine. He's a medical doctor who also has a master's in public health with an emphasis in nutrition. He is the medical director of something called the LifeMed Clinic. Well, let's move on then to talk a bit about what you're doing that's so different. We heard the lifestyle medicine vision, but one of the things I know you've had some interest in is the immune system and autoimmune diseases. I know this often gets a lot of attention, whether someone's dealing with what we would think of as a conventional autoimmune disease like a rheumatoid arthritis or a lupus, or whether they have something that maybe a layperson may not think of how much the immune system is involved with, something like asthma or some respiratory disorders. Can you tell us a little bit why you as a family practice specialist have been so interested in that field?
I mean, one thing that I'm really noticing lately, and it seems to be happening more and more, is autoimmune diseases rising. I mean, we're seeing numerous autoimmune diseases becoming more common. And, now 30% of patients have a positive ANA. I know people don't know what that is probably, but it's a screening test for autoimmune disease. And I know we consider a low level positive, not that big a deal, but I think it's just a sign that, autoimmune disease is rising. We know from other data that's true. And, here's a fact that will blow you away, David. 80% of autoimmune disease is initiated with an uncommon stress event. That's what they call it in the medical literature, an uncommon stress event. 80%. And so when people go through inordinate stress, perhaps COVID would be a good example, or other kinds of personal stressors, and perhaps their lifestyle is not as good as it used to be. I've been doing a lot of research into gut microbiome. We know there's a very intimate interaction there with the immune system. And so if you're eating in a diet that's very processed, that's not very healthy, you're not eating very much fiber, and then you are also having a huge stress event, depending on your genetics, you could end up with an autoimmune disease. And that is a big problem now because it's becoming more common. And I think it's just a sign that people are more stressed than they used to be. And our diets are worse.
So, I mean, you've definitely got our ear. People are relating, higher stress levels they might be relating to maybe what they know. I mean, many of my patients will tell me they're not doing as well as they know when it comes to their diet. And so a lot of my listeners are relating to what you're talking about. And let's say they have an autoimmune disease. Maybe they were diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease, with Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. Maybe it's a rheumatoid arthritis or a scleroderma, or we could go through a whole list. Maybe it's an autoimmune thyroid condition, quite common. Is there any hope? I mean, they already have the condition. I mean, is it too late? You say, oh, well, sorry, you should have eaten better and controlled your stress better. Is that what you tell them?
Absolutely not. In fact, we had a patient recently who got psoriasis, which is an autoimmune condition that we know is connected with streptococcus, strep throat, for example. People will be familiar with that. And we went through a process where we helped them improve their stress. They went through a stress crisis, developed this severe rash. It was a severe form of psoriasis, something called guttate psoriasis was all over her body. It was really, really bad. And it was on her face. I mean, it's really bad. And we went through the process of helping her with her stress. We went through a diet transformation. We included, a few supplements and so on. We dramatically increased her fiber intake. And we really worked hard on trying to calm down her immune system. And this was in a setting where she had seen a dermatologist. The dermatologist had offered the regular regimen, that is offered for that, and she didn't want to do it. And she came to me and said, "I don't want to do the regular regimen. I want a natural method." And I said, "Well, I'm not aware of any kind of you know routine natural regimen that works for psoriasis. I'm going to have to research it for you. Would that be okay? And even if it's kind of out of the box, are you okay with that?" And she's like, "Yeah, I want something natural." So we read about it, looked it up, studied it. There was a dermatologist that was having some success with some natural approaches, and we went after that. And it took about 4 months, but the psoriasis is gone to this day. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's
it's
amazing.
gone. It's gone.
It's totally gone. It's totally gone.
So you got to
Totally
break this
improved.
down for us. I mean, there's thousands of people with psoriasis. No doubt, many of them listening to the show. What all did you do? Not that they can necessarily reproduce this on their own, but you said that there were dietary changes. I mean, specifically, what kind of things did you change in the diet?
She was eating a lot of meat, a lot of chicken and fish. She cut that out. She went to a whole plant vegetarian diet. She went from eating a lot of processed food, she was of Asian descent. She had a lot of white rice. We switched her to more whole plant kinds of options like brown rice and so on. She started doing some green leafy smoothies. We threw in some of those just to try to upregulate her the amount of vitamins and minerals that she was getting. And that was sort of the core. And then we did a few supplements, and we even treated the streptococcus, so with some antibiotics. So that was what that dermatologist had success with, and so we went after it. And it worked like a charm. It was amazing.
So you
But
mentioned supplements.
yeah, one key, before I get to supplements, one key with this story in many cases, if people do a dietary lifestyle change, and I've had this happen, if they do a dietary lifestyle change and they make that progress, but they do not correct the stress issues, many times they do not get the benefits that they would otherwise get. I don't want to get into all the details of her case necessarily, but she went through a crisis. There was a problem with their home. They had to move out and stay in a small place for a long time. They had little kids. It was very difficult. It was a very stressful experience. And when they finally moved back in, the stress levels really dropped. And it was amazing to see when the stress levels drop and you transform your lifestyle with your diet, how your immune system just jumps back into its regular mode. I mean, it's really, really awesome to see that we have some potential to help this.
Now, I know people always want to hear about the supplements, Greg. So I know that's not the whole program, but tell
Sure.
us, are there any special supplements that you felt were effective?
Yeah. So, in reviewing the documentation that this physician had put out, he was really focused on secondary bile acids and bioflavonoids. And so his regimen was curcumin and quercetin. And then he was giving a secondary bile acid. There's a few on the market. The one I gave was ursodiol. And so we gave that along with we gave her some azithromycin to treat the strep, and we put her on a probiotic. And what else did we do? We had her take some kind of sauerkraut and some of these more natural lactobacillus rich fermented foods that that are not necessarily rich in acids, but rich in not necessarily rich in vinegar or something like that, but rich in you know bacteria and so on, because we know that our creator has provided a lot of bacteria in the food. The fact that we're so separated from the land and the garden, it's amazing. There's 100 million bacteria in an apple.
We've been speaking about things that can really reset your body. If you're just joining us, we've been speaking about autoimmune diseases, how they're on the rise, and some of the ways to counter them. Maybe something as simple conceptually as dealing with your stress better and making changes in your diet. Dr. Steinke, I know when we speak to people throughout Indian country, historically, of course, of people living very close to the land.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, for example, let's talk about the apple for a second. So, they did a study where they looked at conventionally sprayed apples versus organic apples. And what they found was both of them had 100 million bacteria in the flesh and in the seed. I mean, it's amazing. Next time you eat an apple, stare at the apple, see if you can see those bacteria. Put it under a microscope, see if you can see them. Anyways, they're there and they're cohabitating with the apple, and it's a really, I think, a miraculous process. But the conventionally sprayed apples had a much narrower microbiome. They had a few more dominant species, and a far fewer number, total of different kinds of species. Whereas the organic apple had a much greater variety of species, and no species was dominating another. And I think that's a very important principle for the gut microbiome is you want to have a wide array of different healthy bacteria in there, and you don't want any one species dominating the other. One of the more common things that we're seeing now is something called dysbiosis. So if your diet's poor, if your stress is too high, you're not sleeping well, you're gaining weight, etc., there's a variety of reasons. Perhaps you got exposed to certain bad actors, bacteria-wise. But as you get a problem with this dysbiosis refers to a problematic gut microbiome. You start to have, in many cases, an overgrowth of certain bacteria. And that overgrowth of bacteria often is producing toxins that is causing problems. I mean, I was just listening to a lecture on Staphylococcus aureus and its connection to gluten, and how people who have too much Staphylococcus aureus in their gut, there's a change in the way they process gluten, which seems to be related to some of our issues with gluten in more recent times. So it's just a fascinating topic.
Yeah, this is. And so just to make sure we're all tracking together, so what we call the microbiome is this, or the gut microbiome, are these germs, this balance of germs that live in everybody's intestine. We say balance, but like you're pointing out, some people may have a more balanced microbiome than others, but everybody has germs that live in the intestinal tract. So Greg, talk with us a little bit more about specific conditions. You were talking about metabolism. I heard that in your comment. Talk to someone who may be struggling with their weight. Is there anything that we know about these gut bacteria and weight that you think is promising, that we should let people know if they're struggling to try to lose some pounds?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that happens when you're on a kind of a processed food diet, you're eating a lot of packaged food, you're eating too much fat, not enough fiber. is many people start to lose a bacteria. There's one bacteria called Akkermansia. This is one that's not familiar yet, but I think it's going to become very, very familiar to a lot of people. And there's just an enormous amount of effort being done with Akkermansia. They're starting to give supplements for it, etc. And what they found is that there's a connection with Akkermansia and your ability to lose weight. And Akkermansia will not grow in your gut unless you're on a high fiber diet that's rich in fruits and vegetables, that's rich in beans, legumes. And so, as you raise your Akkermansia levels, as you adopt that healthy diet, it becomes easier and easier to go ahead and lose weight because Akkermansia interacts with, um, you know, a receptor called it's a GLP-1 a receptor, and that's all kind of doctor talk. But there's a lot of popular medicines out now that are interacting with that receptor, and that are designed for weight loss, that are also given for diabetes. And so, sure enough, you transform your diet and you get Akkermansia growing back in your gut, and you do that process that limits the GLP-1 levels and helps you lose weight.
So you mentioned GLP-1. A lot of people might think of Ozempic or Wegovy or some of
Yeah.
these
Yep.
medications, and those drugs that have become very popular, as you mentioned, for weight loss as well as for diabetic control. So apparently stimulating GLP-1, and that's what you're saying, this bacteria also stimulates this particular receptor that then has these beneficial digestive and
Yeah,
weight loss
it
effects?
acts very much. It acts very much like those drugs, and has an inhibiting effect on your appetite, and which is basically how those medicines like Ozempic, um, you know, help you lose weight.
So how do you spell this bacteria? Is that a tough one to spell for someone who's, hearing about it
Sure.
for the first time and saying, "Hey, I want to search this," and I heard Dr. Steinke mention it several times. Can we put you on the spot and have you give us an actual spelling for that?
Sure. AKK, two Ks, Akkermansia.
Okay, so Akkermansia, Akkermancia. Have I got that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so definitely
And
want to add.
if you'd like to read more about it in kind of a synopsis version, we not too long ago wrote an article in our on our website in our blog about Akkermansia, and you can go to lifemedclinic.org and just click on blog, and then just scroll down to look for the Akkermansia article, and we'd be happy to share that with anybody free of charge. It's free on the internet.
Okay, we want to definitely head over there. At least I want to get that article. So lifemedclinic.org. That's a way to connect with you, with your team. It's also a way to get this free article or synopsis or overview on Akkermansia and how it
Yeah.
might help people to trim down, maybe curb their appetite, maybe even improve their blood sugar. Am I overstating it?
Absolutely not. I mean, it all goes together. I mean, that's the way our bodies are made. Is they're totally interdependent, one on each other, and so it's always, in my view, better if you can do it. I mean, there are times when you can't, but it's always better to engage the natural process to set forward hundreds of different mechanisms in your body to begin the process of improving um, whatever those various goals are. You may have one specific goal. You may want to lose weight, but as you're losing weight and you're engaging in that all those healthy foods, they're changing the chemicals that are going into your brain, improving your mood. They're lowering your blood pressure. They're improving your cholesterol. I mean, it's a multifactorial thing. It doesn't, when you engage in the natural processes, many times it's going to hit multiple different things, not just um, you know lose a few pounds.
Well, Dr. Steinke, as always, you've been a great guest. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your wisdom. One more time, your website for the Life Med Clinic if someone wants to reach out and take advantage of some of your free resources or contact you.
lifemedclinic.org. That's the website. And again, our phone number is 423-250-5094.
Well, Dr. Steinke, thank you so very much. And thank you to each one of you who've joined us today for today's edition of American Indian and Alaska Native Living. As always, I'm Dr. David DeRose, wishing you the very best of health.